Hi, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name's Ed Lee. I'm the Division Chief of Plastic Surgery here at Rutgers NJMS. My talk, I don't have any research specifically focusing on the Asian American experience in plastic surgery. Korean Americans get a ton of plastic surgery, and Koreans are sort of famous worldwide for their cosmetics. We do very little cosmetics here, almost all of it is reconstructive. This is a little bit of my personal history. I was born down in North Brunswick, New Jersey, and then traveled sort of all over the Northeast and then came back to New Jersey. So that's me in the middle. I'm one of three brothers. My older brother's a neurosurgeon. My little brother, he's a taekwondo instructor. So different routes. I started the talk with the title of Patience and Fortitude, and as you can imagine, growing up with a bowl haircut like that, you need quite a bit of patience and quite a bit of fortitude to keep going. And with a brother like this, who's happy to give you bunny ears in every photo, you need quite a bit of patience as well. This was McDonald's. It was the best place to have birthdays when you were a kid in New Jersey. I went to Yale for college. There I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. For some reason, I felt this need that I needed to make money. As an academic plastic surgeon, you usually don't, so don't follow that route. So actually, I chose a different route. So also at Yale, I was very involved in Korean activities. I was part of a traditional Korean drumming troupe doing something called samulnori or pungmul. We traveled all around the East Coast, basically begging for table scraps. People invited us for conferences, and we'd play all throughout the Northeast. It was a lot of fun. And as you can imagine, I don't do it anymore because I'd probably hurt myself trying to do any of those tricks. One of the interesting facts I found out about Asian Americans, when you look at college costs, this has now become a popular issue because of the government and the Democratic call for repayment of student loans. When you look at Asian Americans, they tend to sacrifice more and pay more for their children's education than any other minority group. And so maybe this was why I felt I needed to pay my parents back. So after college, I decided to try to make some money. So there was a famous quote from Willie Sutton. He was a bank robber, and when he was asked why he robbed banks, he said, "Because that's where the money is." So where's the money? Well, Wall Street. So I went to Wall Street, I became an equities day trader, got written up in a book, did pretty well for myself. But if you know anything about life, it may look really cute and innocent, and then bam, it hits you in the face with a snowball. So what's interesting about that Willie Sutton quote is that if you look into it further, he actually denied that. 30 years later in his life, after it had been printed up in a number of papers, he actually denied that he ever said that quote. It's hard to tell if it's true or not because he personally denied it, but he's also a con man, so he's known to lie about just about everything. So I decided to switch tracks. I didn't really enjoy my time, although I did well. On Wall Street, there was something missing. So I went to Georgetown. There I did the special master's program in physiology as a post-baccalaureate program. Went to medical school there. And then went to Pittsburgh. I went to the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center for my plastic surgery and general surgery training. If you know anything about UPMC, it's a monolithic healthcare system. UPMC looks all pretty here. That's known as the Death Star when you're there. Nobody from the hospital ever sets foot in it. It's all for administrators. Residency can be painful. It can make you cry. The weight of it can be crushing. Sometimes they let you play and pretend you're a doctor. Then from there I moved on to Rutgers. Now we're joining the RWJ-Barnabas Health System and the University Hospital. So what is plastic surgery? Plastic surgery at NJMS is a little bit different than most of Korean plastic surgery, which we talked about being cosmetics. Plastic surgery at NJMS, we have 5 full-time faculty. 95% of what we do is reconstructive surgery. Oncologic reconstruction from head and neck reconstruction, breast reconstruction, limb salvage, with the orthopedic oncologist, abdominal wall reconstruction, trauma, head and neck trauma, hand trauma, finger replants, hand replants, forearm replants. One of our attendings even did bilateral foot replants. Congenital congenital problems, and restorative surgery. This is the newest area and very interesting. So one of the interesting things with the opioid epidemic is that we as physicians are overprescribing pain medications. So one of the interesting things with amputations, because we do a lot of limb salvage, whether it's upper extremity or lower extremity, is that by changing the way that we do amputations, we may be able to reduce patients' pain. So basically, when you look at the surgical techniques for amputation, they're the same for below knee amputation. It's the same technique that people were using during the Civil War. So what we're trying to do now is change the way that we treat the nerves. So we treat the nerves differently now than we did then. We're trying to reroute them into muscle to start with, rather than just tying them off and cutting them off. And it seems to reduce patients' pain requirements significantly. We go on missions trips, national and international presentations. Our group of 5 produces over 30 papers annually. We went from, in my time as program director over the last 7 years, we went from 4 residents a year to 16 residents, and we'll move to 18 in the next couple of years. We go to 7 hospitals in the area, including Robert Wood Johnson down in New Brunswick, Hackensack up north, and St. Barnabas. But what about ethnic diversity? This is true for Asian Americans. So this was studied back in 2008 in plastic surgery. At that time, there were approximately 9 to 10% of plastic surgeons who were involved in academic medicine, is similar to the overall population of plastic surgeons within the country. What's interesting is that this was followed up in 2016 with a survey of program directors. So these are people who are slightly higher up in the food chain of the academic circles. And it was noted that, this is very hard to see, but approximately 20% of program directors for residency training were Asian American. Within all of these statistics, you'll see that underrepresented minorities are still very much underrepresented in the academic circles and within plastic surgery as a whole. And that's something that we're trying to correct. The biggest barriers usually are 1, culture within the institution, and 2, money. The culture in this institution is fabulous. It's actually interesting. This was a study and a paper from a few years ago where they looked at the illusion of Asian success, in that there are a high percentage of Asians within organizations, but the representation of Asians at the higher levels was significantly less than you would expect. This may or may not be true in plastic surgery, as we see, because the ratio of program directors is actually 20% of program directors, whereas the overall population of plastic surgeons is only about 10%. Whereas in every other field it's somewhat reversed, where if you look at Goldman Sachs for banking, they have approximately 15% of Asians throughout their workforce, but only a 4 to 5% representation in their upper management. This also brings up the question of getting into medical school or getting into college. There's a recent lawsuit against Harvard University for their profiling of Asians, where Asian Americans had significantly higher standardized test scores, but a reduced, quote, personality score, where across the board they were scoring lower than other races, even if the interviewer had not met that particular interviewee, which I don't understand how you can grade that personality. So there are still barriers to fight. What I fear, though, is that lawsuits like that divide the minority communities. It's only through solidarity as minorities that we become the majority. And that spirit is definitely true here at NJMS, where you can look at our student population, our student body, and it's one of the most diverse throughout the country. And it's only through our work together that we can achieve more. Thank you.